Hey people, Espen here. I think we're live right now. I hope you can hear and see me all right. Please say so in the comment section if there are any problems with the feed here. I'm doing this all solo tonight, so I don't have anyone behind the scenes to help me out, so I have to do it all. So I appreciate if you are quick to say if there's something wrong with the stream here. AV, all good, thanks. Very good. Okay, so we have a very fun, exciting live stream here tonight. It's 9 p.m. in Norway. It's pitch black outside. The snow is gone, but I'm afraid it's only temporarily. It's probably going to come back during the winter. There's at least 1 month left of winter here. But it's cozy and warm here in the attic, and I look forward to spending the next hour with you. So I'm going to go through a couple of things in this stream tonight. We're going to talk about the Prophet X, which I recently posted a video about. We're going to talk about the Liven Low 512, which I also posted a video about recently, a little video. And we're going to talk about a couple of other things as well. And at the end of this, I'm going to open up for a little Q&A. I'm going to answer questions if you have any. If you type down the questions now in the comment section, I'll probably not going to see it at the end of this stream. So if I were you, I'd hold back on the questions for a little while, and I'll tell you when I think it's wise to start typing in questions, if you want answers, that is. So videos maybe 1.5 to 2 seconds behind audio. I know this happens sometimes. I can't do much about it, actually. I have a very decent broadband connection here now, but unfortunately sometimes audio and video goes out of sync, so we can only hope that it'll improve during the stream. I'll see if I can do something about it. Not much I can do. Yeah, let's just hope that it clears out during the stream. So let's talk about one thing that's come to my attention lately, and I'm not sure if I can. Just reading the comments here about the audio and video not being in sync. I don't think I can change the resolution while I'm doing this. Okay, so I put the resolution down to 720p. Does it help? I usually go in 1080p. If that's the problem with the lag, I've reduced it to 720p now. Let me know if it happens, that it's all right again. We'll just have to go with it as it is, I guess. But one thing I want to talk about straight away, right off the bat, is that the pesky scammers and spammers of Telegram has infiltrated a lot of the comments in my videos on YouTube. And if you see something like this in the comment section on my YouTube channel, this is of course not me. I've had loads of emails recently from people saying, hey Espen, is it true that you give away a brand new Mac or whatever because you contacted me in the comment section on YouTube? And this is of course not me. This is a spam, total scam. So if you see this, don't answer it, just ignore it, report it to YouTube. There's nothing I can do about it. The spammers just they make accounts with my name. They steal my thumbnail avatar, and they just pretend to be me in the comment section, but it's not me, and I can't do nothing except delete those comments, and I've deleted as many as I can, but I can't prevent it from happening. So if you see this comment in my see this comment in the comment section. This is not me. I just want to make sure of that, as I've had loads of people direct messaging me lately about this issue. Sorry for the inconvenience, but that is not me at all. So be aware of that Telegram. I think they're everywhere these days on YouTube, so be aware of that. So let's see. Yeah, and a post recently on YouTube about the Prophet X. I have to address some things about the Prophet X, and let's see if this works. Yeah, I recently posted that video on YouTube, and the thing is, I got the Prophet X for my live gigs coming later this year. I've had comments from people like this. Let's check it out. Here's a comment from one of the commenters. The Prophet X is simply an ITX PC motherboard and a Micro Center power supply with a FATAR keyboard. This info is available on the web, complete with photos and available part numbers. And some of the commenters are really upset that I really dig the Prophet X, because it's not an analog synth, it's digital oscillators, and it can't do that, and it can't do that, and why didn't I get a Prophet 5 or whatever? And people, I guess you're not watching right now who wrote that comment, but you have to keep in mind that I got this Prophet X to do live gigs. I got the Prophet X because I wanted a master keyboard. I wanted a modern keyboard, a new keyboard that would not break down during a live set or hauling around to different venues. I wanted a synth that could have all my custom samples in it, along with a synth engine, along with an arpeggiator, a somewhat rudimentary sequencer, and just hold a lot of sounds. And I couldn't really find any other keyboard on the market right now that just ticked every checkbox in my spec list and spec demands. And that's really why I got the Prophet X. I really don't care if it's a PC inside in that sense, or if it's running Linux and has to boot up a little bit. Ideally, I'd want the synth to start up immediately, but old samplers also took a while if you had to load the software, the operating system, etc. So I think the Prophet X is really a really nice and good keyboard for my needs during live sessions. So all the arguments that you could get your job done with 3 keyboards, since you have a lot of collectible synths, you could use those, etc. No, I couldn't. I have to have at least one modern keyboard which can hold a lot of my custom sounds, that's capable of being, lugged around to different venues, in and out of cars, etc. And I can't really take my Prophet VS or a Jupiter 8 to do that now. It's just too risky. So that's the reason why I got the Prophet X. So yeah. So that's a little bit about the Prophet X. If you have questions in regards to my Prophet X purchase and usage, please make them known in the comment section, and I'll answer some of those later if you have any. So that's a little bit of Prophet X. Let me just also add that I think the Prophet X is a fantastic machine. I've used this now for a couple of months every day. I'm looking at it right now, actually. And I think this is one of my best purchases ever. It can do so much, and it's really up my alley in terms of workflow. It's not a sampler you can sample into yourself. That's why I've made a video about Sample Robot, which is a program that helps me sample my old keyboards and get the sounds into the Prophet X. But I think it's a wonderful sample engine in that sense. You can have two sample instruments along with two digital oscillators and analog filters, very like the SSM filters. Actually, they sound very SSM-like. I think it's Dave Rossum design of those new filters in the Prophet X. And the key bed is great. It's not fantastic. I have other key beds that I think are even better, but it's not bad. It's quite decent. Octave switches, etc. You have programmable sliders you can use to do whatever you want in terms of the synth engine. So I really look forward to gigging with this keyboard, and I'll have more videos down the road about my adventures with the Prophet X. So that's that. And a good question. I'll put up this question right away. If you sample an analog sound, isn't it going to sound just the same? And in the case of Prophet X, I'm sampling some of my custom sounds from my synths, and I'm also sampling some of the sounds from my old samplers. And when they come into the Prophet X, I want them to sound exactly as I had them in the originals. So in the Prophet X, I don't want any colorization of the sound going into the Prophet X. I just want as faithful reproduction of that sound in the Prophet X as possible, because I'm going to do my songs, my back catalog live, and I want those sounds to sound as close to the records, as close to the released songs as possible. So in the case of the Prophet X, I don't want it to color the sound in any way when it comes to the sampled sounds. I do like the OB6, by the way, but that was not an option for this purchase. The Prophet X was really the only thing I felt had all the things I wanted on paper, so I bought it blind, and I have to say I'm very happy about that purchase. I considered the Waldorf Quantum, but in hindsight, I'm really glad I went for the Prophet X, as I don't really like the Waldorf Quantum at all, actually. So I did the right thing there. I actually think Sample Robots will, or at least they're thinking about adding the DSS1 to their list of exportable formats, actually, but you have to check with Sample Robot for that. I have one gig in the middle of September this year, a big gig, and I've not had all the meetings with the organizers yet, but I think we're going to try to stream that event live as it's happening with multiple camera setups. I have to get back to you on that one, but hopefully we'll be able to stream that concert live, or at least record it in a very nice resolution and sound. So hopefully that will happen. But let's not go into answering questions right away. Another video I released recently that's gotten some attention from people is this video here. I hope this works out again. Let's see. Yeah, so that was both the Sonicware Liven Low 512. I have it right here, and I've gotten some questions about this since I posted that video, where it doesn't show much in terms of workflow or how to use it. I just sampled in a couple of sounds and just used it as a drum machine, really. But this is in essential a desktop mix of an old Akai 8 or 12-bit sampler and a groove box. I'm simplifying things a little bit here now, but that's basically what it is. And one of the questions I've gotten is, let's pull it up here. The Sonicware Liven Low 512, is it a keeper? As in, is it a keeper for me? And I'm going to be totally honest with you here. The sound coming out of this is very nice. It's lo-fi, crunchy. It reminds me a lot of the Casio RZ1 in that crunchiness, and it also has a certain swing to the pattern when you program patterns and play them back. It has sort of organic life to its own. Again, very much like the RZ1, that was really something special when it came out, I think. And so in that sense, it is a keeper for that reason, I think. What I don't like about the Low 512 is that it operates pretty much as the other Sonicware desktop modules, just like the XFM, etc., which I've reviewed on my channel earlier. It's a lot of button pressing, a lot of hidden features underneath several keys. You have to hold one in and press other keys to get something to happen. And the groove box concept is really not for me. I don't like that personally, because I'm an old dog. I like to have those tiny 32-digit displays like on the Yamaha DX7 and things like that. So having all those little buttons, this plasticky feel, etc., it's sturdy, but the buttons are sort of flimsy. It doesn't suit me really well, so I don't think I'll keep this. But the sound is great, and it can do a whole lot, and I have no problem seeing this as a huge success for Sonicware. But to me, well, it's sort of mixed emotions, so I don't think I'll keep the Liven Low 512, so it'll probably go to someone else in the near future, perhaps. Let's see what happens. But it might be a good thing for you, so you should definitely try to check it out if you have the chance. And yeah, just ask me questions if you have any about the Low 512. I'm not going to do any more videos about it on my channel. So that video with the DSS1 is the video I'll have of the Low 512 in addition to this live stream. Since we're on the topic of Akai, here's a question. Would you post a video about Akai Force and how you intend to use it within your rig? And yes, this video coming Thursday in Europe, maybe Friday, I don't know. But in a couple of days, I'll have that video for you on my channel about how I'm going to use the Akai Force in my live rig. And the Akai Force is another modern piece of machinery that's really not what I'd usually go for, but it might surprise you. So look out for that Akai Force video coming up in a couple of days. So that's that. What else? Yeah, we have another thing as well, and that is I recently got a copyright claim on YouTube. Yes, I did. And let's see if we have it somewhere here. Yeah, it went away. But if you remember this video, and let me know in the comment section if you remember it. Yeah, that video where I play the Roland JX8P and the Roland JX3P with my own custom sounds I have made from scratch myself and which I sell. I play those sounds in a track I've composed from scratch myself, which is already registered and copyright treated here in Norway. So this is definitely my composition, my sounds, my sequence playing on the JX3P, a sequence I programmed myself, which I've also used in a video previously to this, albeit in a different tempo. CD Baby, you know, that aggregator, they actually claimed that video on YouTube not so many days ago. And I was not happy, of course. So I disputed the claim, of course, through YouTube. And YouTube is very pesky in that sense that they make a big statement out of if you dispute a claim and you lose, they'll just delete your channel. So they sort of go out high saying that, hey, you can dispute the claim, but if you lose, we're going to delete your channel. But since this was my song, it was my sound, or there were my sounds, and everything about this video is mine. I, of course, disputed the claim, and I threatened with attorneys. I said I'd fight to the death to prove that this was my song, and I had all the copyrights here, and I really went in something fierce. I wrote them half a letter of just angry sentences, to put it like that. And it took a couple of days and the claim is gone. So I think CD Baby realized that don't mess with Norway. And I would have gone after them with all I have if they had persisted in that claim. So pursue the claims if you have your thing in order in terms of copyright, etc., which I had. So well, I rarely use copyrighted material on my videos. I do all my music, I do all my sounds. I occasionally clip in some pictures from movies, etc., and I'll prepare to take those down or make them blurry if I ever get a claim on that. That's really a piece of cake to rectify. But the sounds and the songs I play in my videos, unless I'm doing a cover song, I'm always on the right side in that sense. So CD Baby, you have to do better than that if you're going to come after Espen Kraft. So I'm well aware of that Woody Piano Shack Roland demo song thing, and I have I know a lot of other YouTubers that have gotten into problems with claims, and that can happen if you do use copyrighted material, even if that usage is sort of a ad for that artist or material. If you do use copyrighted material, you can get claims against you, and not all claims are devastating. You can just lose the monetization of the video, etc. So, but in my case, since I wrote the song and I actually made the sounds, all of them, I of course disputed that claim. So CD Baby is out of the picture right now. So that's that. And yeah, let's check out the comment section here to see if there's something you're wondering about. Everyone new to the chat, hello from Norway. I hope the audio video is it better now? I hope so. To me, I really don't see it, so it's up to you guys to tell me if it's working or not. Again, I can't do much about it. I've set the resolution down to 720p. So let's see here. What do we have? Here's a question. What do you think is the best VST for fidelity? Well, that's a really broad question, and I have no clue, actually. I don't pay much attention to what VSTs are out there, and what you mean by fidelity, well, that can mean so much. So I have really no idea. I know that a lot of companies releases virtual emulations of classic synths, but fidelity is not always what we want in classic synths. Sometimes we want the sort of aliased sound, the crunchiness of lo-fi converters, etc. So if you want stellar audio sound quality coming out of a plugin, VST plugin, I really have no idea what you should go for. But it's an interesting question. So let's see what we have here. Yeah, this is interesting. The Hydrosynth. Espen, I got people complaining a lot because I bought a Hydrosynth. So there will always be people like that. Yeah. You know, when you have a YouTube channel with a niche YouTube channel with some success, in that sense that you have a lot of comments coming into your videos, there are always going to be what I call haters or overly critic people towards the choices you make. And I knew that going into this, starting up a YouTube channel, and I'm very hard to break down in that sense, but I don't stand for bullies either. If I saw someone bullying a kid younger than me when I grew up, I'd always try to interfere with the bully and sort of getting me out of there so I could protect the young child. And I'm also that like that myself towards my own feelings and emotions. If I feel that someone is trying to bullying me or upset me or make fun of me, I always fight back in that sense, and I do that in the comment section as well. So people having lots of complaints about my decisions or feelings, well, I answer them back on YouTube, and sometimes they go away just like that. Sometimes they linger on, and sometimes I have to even block them, and sometimes I argue for a little while and then I just let it go. So it depends on the attitude of the one trying to bully. But complaints about your choices, in this case, someone's complaining about your choice of getting the Hydrosynth. Well, it's just human nature, I guess. I haven't used the Hydrosynth myself. I've checked out a couple of videos and read the specs. And the most important thing is, just like me with the Prophet X, the most important thing is if you're happy with your choice, if you like the Hydrosynth, it brings out good things in you and you make great music with it, or just having a lot of fun with it, that's the main important thing and what you should really treasure. So if you love the Hydrosynth, good for you, and just use it. And here's another little remark that's very, very true. Digital synths make great music too. And guys, there's nothing worse than frowning upon digital synths or hybrid synths. Analog synths are the type of synths I care less and less about, really. The 80s with its synth pop and chart pop music from the mid 80s and towards the mid 90s were mainly made up of hybrid synths, digital synths, and samplers. So analog synths were really just a tiny bit of synth pop from the mid 80s going forward. So if you want to do sort of a authentic mid to late 80s pop synth sound, you really must use a lot of digital synths and hybrid synths. And that's really my main passion these days, samplers and hybrid synths. So don't ever let anyone make fun of you because you like digital synths. The Prophet X has digital oscillators in its synth engine, and they sound great. They sound absolutely great. And I didn't need a analog synth as my main keyboard for my live gigs at all. In a live venue, no one can definitely hear if you're using a real analog synth or a digital synth, unless you're doing a really purist setup In that sense, we use a lot of old analog synths, like Kebu used to do, but is doing less of now. So when I go on stage later this year, no one in the audience will have a clue what I'm using unless I tell them. So in a live situation, you really can't tell those synths apart at all. So digital synths for the win. Absolutely. So let's see. What else? What else? Again, to any new watchers, hello, greetings from Norway. It's 9:30 p.m. right here. Yeah, it seems like the sync, the audio video sync is messed up today. It's run fine for the last 4 or 5 live streams, but today it's messy, I see, but I can't do nothing about it. And again, the live chat in a live stream will not appear right away when the broadcast ends, when the live stream ends. YouTube has to chew on it for some hours before the live chats will appear when you watch the video back. So it will be there. It just takes a couple of hours. Another question from Cole here. Have you ever made an entire song with just a short sample of your voice? And interesting and fun question. The answer is no, I have not. Could be a fun exercise to do perhaps in a video down the line. But for a fully released version, I've never had the idea of doing it like that. It's really not what I do. I do like samplers, and I love sampling and chopping up my vocals to do vocal effects in a song. I have lots of songs that have that, but making my voice into the sounds of an entire song is really not something I've thought about, but I might do it down the line. So thanks for asking. And here's another one from the Metamorph. I always love seeing what's on your top shelf. Yeah, like back here. How often do you change it? And do you have any favorite 80s sleeve designers? Well, I changed out some of the laser discs on top here just before the stream started. So these are not vinyl records you see up here. These are 3 different laser disc or 3 different movies on Laserdisc. You have, let's see if I can do this. That's Risky Business. And that is, of course, Star Wars. And that is the Japanese Laserdisc version of Flight of the Navigator from 1986. One of my actual favorite 86 or 80s movies, actually, sci-fi movies. And I'll have a video about that Laserdisc release and movie coming up on my new YouTube channel, 5 minutes of retro later. So I've changed these out before the live stream started. And I'm really happy that you pay attention to the top shelf, because I think about this a lot, actually, what I'm going to put up here before a video or a live stream. So thanks for noticing. And next time it will be something different, I guess. So that's that. And Dai Y, hey Dai, hello from Toronto, he says. Espen, have you got a couch in the studio yet? No, I haven't. I have sold some stuff since last time. Quite a lot, actually. You can't see the result of what's in the room right now, but it's still jam-packed, so there's no room for a couch here yet. But I'm getting there. So I had a, if you watched my Prophet X video, you saw that I was sitting in a sort of comfy chair with, yeah, not an office chair. So I do have a room for a chair here now, but I really like a couch so I can lay down and listen to my mixes and whatnot as I'm working. So getting there. Hopefully soon. I did sell one of my modules today, actually. So things are going out. But again, because of the asterisk. I'm not selling things I need or rely on for my job or my own music, only things I never use anymore or only use occasionally. So back to the Prophet again, from a brand, ever considered to buy the Prophet 10? I saw you have the Prophet X. Well, we've talked about the Prophet X for a while now, and I really don't have any desire to get a Prophet 5 or Prophet X. If I want the Prophet 5 or Prophet 10 sound, I'd use the Prophet X now, either as a sample machine playback of those samples of the Prophet 5 or 10, or I can make those sounds with the synth engine of the Prophet X, actually, and I'd come pretty close too. So no need to shell out top dollar for the Prophet 5 or 10 for me now. And Mr. First Tone, how much use of the Isla S2400? Just gonna have a drink of water here. The Isla S2400 is a fantastic machine, but I only use it as a drum machine replacement. It replaces all my old drum machines. So I have sampled all my or recorded the sounds of all my old drum machines, and I've imported those banks into the Isla S2400s. That's being used as a drum machine, pure and simple. I don't use it as a SP1200 at all. So you can say it's kind of overkill for me to have the S2400, but I really like the S2400. I like the pads, I like the faders, I like the build quality, and I like the sound of it. But I'm not using it as a SP1200, only as a drum machine replacement. So I use it a lot to flesh out stuff, flesh out ideas. I use it in videos. And yeah, it's getting a lot of usage here, but not in the way that a lot of other people are using it for slicing up samples and getting that really crunchy sound, etc., etc. That's not how I use it. But I like it. I really like it. So let's see here. Comments. This is interesting. Doug Sypek says, I have a lot of vintage synths, but there is still something missing. What vintage effects would help me nail that 80s sound? And is regretting selling his Lexicon PCM 70 and is looking at the Yamaha SPX 90 or Rev 7. And you're not the only one that sold off stuff, regretting selling stuff. I do that too occasionally. But remember, regret is a waste of time. So just let it go. But it doesn't mean you can't buy some things back or use other stuff. And in terms of vintage effects, well, to nail that 80s sound, of course, gated drums is a trademark of many 80s hits. And in that sense, you can use a lot. You can use the Alesis MIDI Verb 2. And you can also use the AMS RMX 16, which I really recommend, which you now get as a great plugin as well, called Glow from Wave Alchemy. The PCM 70 is, of course, classic in that sense. It's from the mid-80s and has that classic Lexicon sound, the chorus modulated reverb, concert hall, even more so the 480L, which is really nice to have in your sonic arsenal, doing that 80s classic effect sound. And of course, the Yamaha SPX 90. I'm a big fan of the symphonic chorus, which to me is not much beats the Yamaha symphonic chorus in terms of 80s chorus, and you get that in a lot of the Yamaha effect boxes from the 80s. I use the Yamaha DMP7 digital mixer with its symphonic chorus inbuilt, so there's a lot of options for going that 80s effect sound route if you want to. So yeah, check out my some of my videos where I review effects. I have a lot of them, so and all of them are aimed at getting that 80s effects going. Another way of getting an 80s sound is, of course, going through tape. And Spatino 101 recently bought the Sony WMF10. Love the imperfections of tapes. What do you think? I just love tape myself. Sometimes I can't be bothered running everything through a tape machine, recording onto tape, etc., dumping over into the DAW, etc., etc. I've done that for my cassette album, Dreams. But sometimes I just want to record faster, and I skip the tape machine altogether. But recently, and I haven't posted anything about this, I got this big box in on Friday, which has a really cool thing inside that's gonna, well, they claim to have made it to emulate tape without actual tape. So I look forward to showing you what that is and see if it can really emulate tape. But tape has a lot more than just the sound. It has it's the wobble and hiss, etc. So let's see how it goes. I love tape, so don't blame me for getting any sort of tape-based machine, really. And again, I've done many videos on 80s effect modules, effect processors. So just check my channel. I just have to pull this up here. Seth colon love Flight of the Navigator. So that makes two of us. It's a really great movie, very 80s. So thanks for commenting on that. The Eventide Eclipse is really nice. I have to admit to that. Yeah, this is an interesting question from Brian Hinze. Hello, Brian. He says, I have recently switched to a stand-up music studio versus trying to spin in my desk chair, which I'm doing right now, and trying to reach all the synths and gear. How do you reach and maintain control of everything? And Brian, if you watched my one of my the Christmas live stream with Anders Jensen, you can watch that back if you haven't already. Me and Anders, we have totally opposite views on how to use our gear in the studio. Anders, he likes to have total control of everything from within his DAW. So every piece of gear he has been connected up to a audio and MIDI patch bay, so he can reach everything from within his DAW and play everything just sitting exactly where he's sitting. You don't have to move a muscle to reach and play and record his synths. I am the total opposite. Almost nothing of my gear in terms of synths, drum machines, etc., are hooked up permanently. They're actually not even plugged in at all. So when I am going to record a synth, I just go to the shelf where it sits. I take it down and put it up to a keyboard stand next to my DAW, and I wire it up, hook it up, and I play it or MIDI it up if I have to record something difficult, which I have to do more than one time to record it. And I work on that synth, play with that synth, record that synth, and then I unplug everything and put it back onto the shelf. And I pull down the next one and I record the next part with that synth. That's my preferred workflow. So I get up of the chair, down into the chair, up of the chair, down into the chair, and that gives me sort of ergonomics in that sense, a little bit of exercise, but this is really how I like to work. My effect processors are hooked up to a MIDI patch bay, so I can reach those and wire those into the analog mixer with patch cables. But again, nothing is wired in. When I start a new session, everything is unplugged, so to speak. So I start with a fresh and new canvas every time. And this has been a workflow I've sort of adapted to after I started this YouTube channel, because I have to break down and build up different setups for different videos. So it sort of suited me better to just have it that way, even if it means a bit more work when I actually just do music, my own music, or music for clients. But I've grown to appreciate that workflow now after doing it for 5 or 6 years. So this is how I do things these days, and I am really comfortable at doing it like that. So no right or wrong, whatever you prefer or whatever suits your daily life or daily routine, I guess. So an interesting and good question. So what else? Are you a fan of Jexus, one of the first synth YouTubers? And I'm going to answer this in two ways. I'm not fan of the videos as such. I'm not very fond of videos with a lot of effects, fast cuts, and a rapid tempo. I shy away from those. I like long, academic, slow videos where things takes their time. And as such, I don't watch Jexus's videos, but he's a talented sound designer, and I like the sound he gets out of his synths. So no, I don't watch him a lot, but I respect him and think he's a great sound designer. So that should answer that, I guess. Again, this is more a question for my other channel, my other new channel, 5 Minutes of Retro. But speaking of memorabilia and Laserdisc from my net summer, thanks for asking. Did you ever play the horror game The Seventh Guest? And no, I've never played the horror game The Seventh Guest. But I'm aware of most games released on different platforms. And there's a lot of games I'd really would like to have the time to play, even back in the 80s, which I never had the time to play, and also now. So some games I just have to let go, and that's just how it is. So let's see here. Again, the Prophet X from Christopher Horch. Hi, Espen. How was the unboxing of the new Prophet X for you? Was there a thick manual like the 80s and the 90s? And no, there wasn't. Just a tiny, not too big either, pamphlet, really. Most of the manuals with new synths today, I think, is online or as a PDF document somewhere. I know exactly what you mean. Those really big, thick, often 2 or 3, almost like books, with especially Roland gear back in the 80s. I think those days are gone. So no, there was not a big manual for the Prophet X. And to tell you the truth, I haven't even read anything in the manual about the Prophet X. The Prophet X is very easy and fast to understand, to get to grips with. There's a lot of functionality and features, but it's really not very diving menu system on it. It has some layers of menus, but it's really out in the open. So the Prophet X is really not difficult to grasp at all. It sort of requires you to know how a synth works in terms of building up sounds with a subtractive synthesis, but that's something else. This is nice. I don't have any requests to come and play in Japan as of now, but I'd love to play in Osaka, and I'd love to have laser discs involved in my live streams, so live gigs. And both Krull and Labyrinth are very entertaining movies, and I can't say too much about it, but a little while back, I actually did a song for a client where the client wanted something close to the ballroom scene in Labyrinth, actually. So we'll get back to that at another time. And Ricky D, yes, I still have the Juno 106, not selling the Juno 106. In fact, the Juno 106 might come onto stage with me, actually. So I will use some of my vintage synths on stage, and the Juno 106 is definitely a contender for being one of 3 vintage synths I will take on stage with together with the Prophet X. Because remember, I told you this before, and I will tell you later also, I have a guitarist coming with me on tour, which will also play keyboards as well as guitars. So he might end up playing the Juno 106. I will not buy the Prophet 6. Don't have any use for that now. And just so we're clear, I still buy stuff. I bought the Prophet X recently, and I will continue to buy stuff and sell stuff as well. So I'm not only selling, I'm also buying, selling and buying. You know the movie where that was said in that way? That's a tricky one. Our business is both selling and buying. Yes, that's a little Easter egg for you right there. So let's see. The MIDI implementation of the PCM70 is actually quite good. I agree with that. You can do a lot of things with the PCM70 from your master keyboard, actually. So absolutely. And this is a question I've gotten recently, or for the last 3 or 4 months, from different people, actually, a lot of manufacturers as well. Are you visiting Superbooth in Berlin this year? And no, I'm not, or at least I don't plan to. If a manufacturer or sponsor the trip for me, then I might consider it. But going on my own is not happening, I guess. I'd love to visit, and I'd love to be there, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen this year. The laser harp, you've seen too much Jean-Michel Jarre, Annette, so I'm not going to do any laser harp in the recent future, I think, unless someone builds me one. But it was very cool when Jean-Michel Jarre did it. I agree on that. And I'll just answer this as well. The Valhalla vintage verb, it's a no-brainer. If you don't have it, go get it. I'm not sponsored or anything by Valhalla. I've bought my vintage verb with my own money, as most other people do as well. But it's my definitely go-to vintage reverb emulator. Nothing comes closer to those big Lexicon reverbs than the Valhalla vintage verb, I guess. For what it costs, it's a no-brainer, definitely. Do you think the Microkorg is a good starter synth? From Paul. I have barely used the Microkorg. I know of its capabilities. I can't remember if my friend Anders has one, or if it was another Korg, but I don't have one, so I don't really know if it's a good starter synth. I think I would recommend a synth with a full set of keys, 61 keys, 5 octaves, and not a micro keyboard. Because I'm a player, I don't like micro keys at all. I can tolerate them on special occasions like the Casio SK1 or toy keyboards, fun keyboards from the 80s, because that was how they were made. But as a good starter synth, I'd probably not recommend the micro Korg because of its ergonomics, really. So let's see. Yamaha DMP7 or Ensoniq DP4 Plus. Which effects do you like best from these units? Well, these are two different types of gear. The DMP7 is a digital mixer, which has basically the fleet of Yamaha digital effects built into it. So it's not an effect processor as such, takes up a lot of space, etc. But I like the DMP7 because it has a sort of sound to it on its own, and with those effects, I really like to use that as an effects processor, even though it's not per definition an effects processor. The Ensoniq DP4 Plus, that is a classic effects processor. I do prefer the original DP4 and not the Plus. So I'd go for the DP4 before the DP4 Plus. But they're both great. The Yamaha SPX90, Rev 7, all of that, fantastic multi-effects processors, as is the Ensoniq DP4 and DP4 Plus. So to pick one over the other, they're kind of different. They can do different stuff. So I like them both. I like the vocoder of the DP4 as well, which the Yamaha doesn't have, or at least not all Yamahas have vocoders. Okay, let's see. I'll just pull this up again. Laserdisc. Nothing is more 80s and early 90s than Laserdisc. Laserdisc requirement, and I hope you have it. I have it in another room. You can't see it, but you saw some of it in my teaser trailer for my new channel. But I have a lot of Laserdisc stuff, and I can't wait to show that off in future videos on my new channel, both Laserdisc gear and Laserdisc the software material itself. And of course the Keep, I have the Keep soundtrack, not the Laserdisc, by the way, which I should have in my collection, but I don't, unfortunately, but it's out there. I know a lot of you guys are interested in Laserdisc. I can read so from the comment section, and you will be served well on my new channel. And again, back to the Prophet X from Tommy Lee. What do you like the most about the Prophet X? Well, I've gone through that already earlier in the stream, so watch that back. And why I didn't choose a Kurzweil, the Jupiter X, the Nautilus, or Montage. Well, I just liked the Prophet X specs. I liked the way it looked. I liked the workflow. I liked everything about it. And it didn't have any sort of downsides the way I saw it when I checked it out beforehand, as all the other competitors had in different ways. So I'm sure I could have loved a lot of features from all the competitors. It's not about that at all. But in total, the Prophet X was the best choice for me, and I'm going to stick with that for now. So so that's that. And this is very interesting from Atari Falcon. Nice name, by the way. I use an Akai 2-track tape machine. How do you solve the problem of the timing fluctuations of individual recordings, one after the other? I always have to work with time warp to get them back in sync. I never use time warp, and I I think I work the same way you do. When I worked on my new album, I recorded 8 tracks, usually 4 stereo synths triggered from a MIDI sequencer going into those 8 tracks on a Fostex Model 80, which I had for my recent album. And when I recorded those back, I recorded them one by one. That is, each stereo track on their own back into the DAW, and that way I had 4 stereo tracks not lined up in the DAW. And you could, of course, use a warp engine to get that going, which I don't. So I first lined them up as perfectly as I could manually and started playback. And when I heard timing issues starting to emerge, I chopped them up and nudged them slightly where they sounded the best. Played back again, and those little time gaps where there had to be silence, because the longer out you came in the song, the more time gaps you had with no sound because you chopped things up. I just filled that in with a little bit of reverb, and I dare anyone to listen back to my album now and hearing those time gaps in the final mixes. So it comes down to filling in those gaps with a little bit of reverb, maybe other sounds overlap right there, etc. So it's time consuming, but well worth it to get that tape sound going on some of the tracks. I didn't use it on all the songs, but this is how I do it manually, and with the chopping, splicing, and maybe occasionally a little bit of time stretching as well. So I'd say 90% were done manually and 10% were done with time stretching. I use Cubase, so I don't use any automatic warping, but I use the time stretch a little bit on those places where I couldn't get it to match manually with a little bit of reverb tail. So that's how I did it. And again, back to my album Dreams. I have 2 tracks on the album called by name. One is called Kari's Garden, and one is called Memories of John. And if you have the cassette, and you have the cassette, I'm not sure I had put this into the Bandcamp release, but the album is dedicated to my parents, and my parents' names are Kari, that's my mother, and John is my father. So since I dedicated the album to my parents, I thought it's a nice gesture to them to have each of their names in some of the tracks of the album. So that's why I have both their names in 2 different songs on the album. So that's that. Yeah. Wow, we're over an hour already. Nice. And Angelo, so what about this Prophet X EK dudes? Well, I've talked a lot about the Prophet X today, and watch the stream back, and you'll hear more about the Prophet X. So let's see, we're coming to the end here. I notice you also have a Waldorf Microwave XT. Do you like it? Use it a lot? Well, I don't have any Waldorf Microwave XT. I only had it on loan. It's been returned, quite a while ago, actually, so I don't have that anymore. But I liked it. I liked the original microwave from Waldorf better, a lot better, but the XT has a lot of knobs, etc., which is cool. And it certainly has a lot of cool sounds, and I've actually sampled a lot of the sounds, and I've even released a tile sampler pack with a lot of the sounds from the Microwave XT in it. So I like it, but I never owned it. I did own the original Microwave. And my favorite vocoder, if any, I don't have any favorite vocoders, but I, of course, like the old stuff. I've used some of that. But if I would go for a vocoder now, I really like the vocoder in the Mini Nova from Novation. On my first album, after I started up the YouTube channel, I've done lots of albums before that in other genres, but my first album going into this new YouTube era, for me, those days from 2017, I use a lot of the Mini Nova vocoder on that one. I use it on Midnight Drive. I use it on the Golden Boy, the vocal version, and I use it on a couple of other tracks as well on that album. So that was all the Novation Mini Nova vocoder. I think that's a fantastic vocoder actually for a little synth like the Mini Nova. I sold the Mini Nova off because I didn't like the small keys, but you could get the Ultra Nova if you like the Mini Nova. So that's actually one of my favorite vocoders. Yeah, so let's see. There are other people fan of the Valhalla vintage verb here as well, I see, and that's very nice. Is there a chance you can make a video about synchronization, analog sync click tracks? I'm not quite sure what you mean, but I have a couple of videos showing how Porta Studios worked and how you use tape sync and SMPTE sync, etc., with tape reel-to-reel recorders. So I have 3 videos in series coming right after each other where I go through how to sync up analog gear with a DAW, or in my case, the Atari ST. So I have that already. And the Alesis MIDI Verb 4 becoming slowly towards an end here, people. So I won't be able to answer tons of questions now, but let's see what comes up in the bottom of the chat session here. What are your thoughts on the Alesis MIDI Verb 4? Well, I really like the MIDI Verb 2, and that's my go-to MIDI verb of all the MIDI verbs. I never spent much time with the MIDI verbs coming after the 2, because the 2 has that magic sound. The MIDI Verb 2 is the liquid gold of MIDI verbs, so I really recommend that. But again, if you love the MIDI Verb 4, use the MIDI Verb 4, and I'm sure it's a nice MIDI verb. I just happen to love the 2 and don't need any other MIDI verb than that in my case. Yeah, Dragon's Lair. Anyone remembers Dragon's Lair in the arcades in the past? That was all Laserdisc. You really only, I have to put this up. The Dragon's Lair arcade game back in the day, that was just a Laserdisc player in the back, and all your options were really triggering the next or another chapter on the Laserdisc. So what you chose for the night, the decisions of the night really triggered chapters on the Laserdisc. I'll come back to that in a later episode again on my other channel. Yeah. Yeah. Brian again, when are we going to see videos and pictures of a young Espen jamming with various synths? There really exists very few pics of a young Espen jamming with various synths. I regret is a waste of time, but if there's one thing I can regret, it's not taking more pictures or having people taking more pictures of me back in the days in my studio or with synths, etc. So, but I do have some, and I promised to bring them into this live streams before, so I'll try to oblige you later. Another interesting question here. Do you get nervous playing live, and how do you play well if you do? And me going on stage later this year will be the first time in well, apart from one smaller gig in 2017 where I only played for about 5 or 6 minutes, which was all live. I haven't played live in a classical sense since around 2001, I think. So it's been a while, and I used to play live a lot. I gigged and toured almost every weekend for years in the 90s, both singing and playing, even a bit of dancing as well. Can you imagine that? And that I have videos of, but I'm not sure I'm gonna play you that. But anyways, if you're well rehearsed and don't suffer from stage fright, which can be a terrible thing. I love being on stage, so I don't have stage fright, but I can get nervous, of course. I think I'll be pretty nervous going on stage later this year since it's been so long since I've done it. But again, when I go on stage later this year, I will be very well rehearsed. So it should be mostly muscle memory playing, and that makes it easier. But if nerves strikes you, and I have actually experienced that way back, where I actually just froze during a song. I was playing the grand piano with a band, and suddenly I got totally blank, couldn't remember a thing, and I just stopped playing. Luckily, there was other musicians carrying on the tune, but of course, everyone could hear and see I stopped playing. But sometimes it happens, and after a little while, I sort of got back into it. But it's um, it's definitely not something you want to experience, but it can be a good experience to take with you further, so you can recognize some mechanisms in trying to remember stuff or doing things if you're reading the sheet music, etc., etc. So, well, interesting question, and maybe I'll answer that in a video coming later when I'm giving you updates on how the rehearsals are going, etc. Maybe I'll even do a little bit of shooting from the rehearsals so you can see how we do it, me and the guitarist. Interesting stuff. Okay, we're coming to an end here. I think it's very nice to see so many people joining in, and thank you so much for asking questions. And no, I don't have the Yamaha RX11. I sold that years ago, so I can't help you there. My opinion on the Golden Age preamps. Well, I have a video about the Golden Age preamp, so you should watch that. And did you ever get to visit the legendary Turnkey Music Store in London? And yes, I did many times. I've been to London a lot in the past, and I went to all the music stores back in the day, and it was glorious. It was absolutely fantastic. And I even bought some gear while I was there in London, actually. So, yeah. Was it nearby? I can't really remember where it was anymore. Was it around Tottenham Court Road? I'm sure there's people from London in the chat here now that can rectify me on that one. Can't remember exactly where it was, but I was there many times. And the SQ1, I have a video about that on the channel, and it's very nice. I think I've answered this before, so I won't answer it in much detail now, my lady. But what other kinds of music do you like besides 80s synth pop? Prog rock, metal, dance, music, classical, Latin. I like it all. I listen to a lot of music. Remember, I've worked in a lot of different genres. I've played piano in musicals. I've played grand piano with musicians from the National Opera, and I haven't played in a metal band, of course, because they really or didn't used to have synths in their lineup. But I listen to Metallica. Well, everything actually. I enjoy everything. If I'm going to relax, sit down and relax in my couch here, hopefully, and put on some music, I'll probably put on either John Williams or some Beethoven or Mozart. I love classical music. Almost all my original pop music has its origin in classical music. I'm a big fan of classical music. So I listen to that a lot. But I like all sorts of music, opera, and even country music I like. So I've been a pro musician since the late 80s as a producer, engineer, arranger, etc. So you learn to appreciate good music. I like good music, and that can be found in any genre. The K4, Kawai K4, K3, K1, K5, 5000. I have the Kawai K3 right now. There's a question here about the Kawai K4, which is not one of my favorite Kawais, I have to admit. What do you think of the Yamaha EX5? Well, I was the first producer in Norway to get the EX5R. I even drove into Oslo on a sunny summer afternoon with a good friend of mine to pick up the EX5R in a warehouse. And I used it a lot, and I still dig the EX5 and the EX5R. I just don't have it anymore, but I have samples of it. So me and the EX5 has a great history together. Yeah, I'm not going to answer questions about the Behringer products here. I've answered that in previous live streams, so you just have to check that back. And I do have what is a large collection? I don't have a large collection of anything really, if you compare to those people that have really large collections of everything from vinyl records to synths and gear. But I have a decent collection of vinyl records, and especially singles and 12-inch maxi singles. And again, I have shown some of that in previous videos on this channel. I have more videos on my new channel showing off and telling you about special vinyl editions I have. So I look forward to showing you that. I don't think the TR-08 is a great beginner drum machine at all, actually. But it's nice, and I of course love the TR-808, the original. But I don't think any drum machine is a great beginner drum machine. A drum machine is a drum machine, and it sort of depends on what sounds you want coming out of your drum machine. If you're going to do 80s pop, the TR-808 is not the only sound emerging from the 80s as classic 80s synth pop drums. I'd go for a sort of Lindrum style, maybe the Roland TR-707 instead. It's vintage, of course, or something similar in modern drum machines, maybe. Again, what artists' album I like from different various artists or genres? Too hard to answer that now, and I think I've answered that in previous live streams as well. So too much to answer right now, especially now we're coming towards the end of this stream. But I have videos coming up on that later. I'll bite on this one. If you weren't an 80s music enthusiast and nostalgic collector, what other profession or interest would you be doing? And yeah, what was my goal as a child to be? I don't think, well, I'm going to say it like this. Again, regret is a waste of time, but I wish I'd pursue my football career in a more serious way earlier when I was younger. I was a kid. I think I would have made a good striker because I was a good striker back then. So that could have kept me going until I was in the 40s or late 30s, I guess, and I'd live off the money. So I didn't have to do anything else but watch all YouTube clips of myself scoring the decider in the World Cup, etc. So that will have to answer that, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, Foyle's bookstore in London. I was there a lot of times as well. I have some books I actually bought at Foyle's. I'll pull them out and show them to you in another video later. Okay, so this is the last question I'm going to answer tonight. Sorry if I can't answer all questions, but we'll have more live streams down the road. Alias's HR16 are easy to program for a beginner. I'm not sure. If I took one of my kids and gave them a HR16, I don't think they'd be able to program it at all, actually. I don't think they'd be able to hook it up. So it depends on where you're coming from. If you have some experience with the music gear, music tech, maybe. I'm looking at it right now since you're asking. It's up here on the shelf next to the MMT8. But I'm not sure, actually, if it's a good beginner's drum machine. If it's refurbished, maybe, because those switches can be pretty pesky if it's an refurbished vintage one. So yeah, that's that. People, thank you so much for joining in this live stream. The live chat will be available in the video when you watch it back later. If you just give it some hours, YouTube don't release the live chat right away. So again, thanks for watching. I have a great video, exciting video about my live setup coming in a couple of days where I use the Akai Force as a backbone in my live setup, and I can't wait to show you that. So I see you there, and we'll see each other in future live streams. So take it easy and have a nice day, a wonderful day, or evening, or night, whatever, or wherever you are in the world. And I'll see you next time. Cheers.